There are few cars in American history that represent the end of an era quite like the 1980 Turbo Trans Am. While most muscle cars of the 80s were shadows of their former selves, Pontiac refused to let the Trans Am go quietly into the night. They had a plan that would make this car the last true muscle car of its generation. The idea was revolutionary at the time. Take their trusty 301 cubic inch V8 and add something that no other American manufacturer dared to try in a muscle car: a turbocharger. This special Trans Am could not only outrun its V8 predecessors, but could also go toe-to-toe with contemporary Corvettes and European sports cars. Yet so few were produced in this configuration that many muscle car enthusiasts don't even know they exist. By the time 1980 rolled around, most American performance cars had been strangled by emissions regulations and rising gas prices. The Corvette was down to just 190 horsepower. The Mustang's V8 was making a measly 140 horsepower, and many other muscle cars had already died off completely. But in the engineering offices at Pontiac, a small team refused to accept this as the new normal. They were about to create what would become the most powerful American car of 1980, and they would do it in the most unexpected way. The story of the Turbo Trans Am starts with Pontiac's engineering team facing a major crisis. Their beloved 400 cubic inch V8, the heart of every Trans Am since 1969, couldn't meet the new emission standards. Instead of giving up, they turned to their smaller 301 V8. While other manufacturers were downsizing to 6 cylinders or even 4 cylinders, Pontiac saw an opportunity. The 301 was lighter than the old 400, sitting about 100 pounds less over the front wheels, which actually improved the car's balance. But the real magic came from their partnership with Garrett A Research, the same company that helped Porsche develop the legendary 930 Turbo. The Pontiac team worked countless hours to develop a reliable turbo system that could handle the stress of boost while still meeting emissions standards. This wasn't just bolting on a turbo and hoping for the best. They reinforced the engine block, redesigned the pistons for lower compression, and even added an electronic spark control system that was years ahead of its time. The turbo system itself was cutting edge, using a wastegate to limit boost to 9 psi, and an innovative oil cooling system to keep temperatures in check. This was sophisticated engineering that you'd expect to find in a Porsche or BMW, not in a Trans Am. Yet here it was, being developed in the same offices where the GTO was born just 16 years earlier. The modifications to the Turbo Trans Am went far beyond just its engine. Pontiac knew that to handle the newfound power, the car needed serious upgrades in every department. The most obvious change was right on the hood, a special turbo bulge with a functional hood scoop that fed cold air directly to the turbocharger. But what really set this car apart was the WS6 performance package that came standard on every Turbo Trans Am. This wasn't just some appearance package. It included massive 8-inch wide snowflake wheels with special Goodyear tires, 4-wheel disc brakes that were larger than standard, and a completely revised suspension system. The suspension upgrades were particularly impressive, featuring special tuned springs, thicker sway bars, and unique shock absorbers that helped the car handle better than any Trans Am before it. Inside, the Turbo Trans Am got its own special touches too. A unique engine-turned dash housed an 85-inch dynamic speedometer, though the car could easily pass that, and a boost gauge was mounted right on the hood scoop, visible through the windshield. The seats were heavily bolstered to hold you in place during hard cornering, and a special 3-spoke Formula steering wheel came standard. Every detail was thought out to make this feel like a true driver's car, not just another emission-strangled relic of the muscle car era. The result of all these modifications was nothing short of incredible for 1980. While the standard 301 V8 made just 150 horsepower, The turbo version pumped out 210 horsepower and, more importantly, 345 lb-ft of torque. That might not sound like much today, but in 1980, this made the Turbo Trans Am the most powerful American car you could buy. The performance numbers backed up the power ratings too. The car could sprint from 0 to 60 in just 8.2 seconds, which was seriously quick for 1980. Even more impressive was its quarter-mile time of 16.2 seconds at 84 mph pace, numbers that put it right in line with the last of the big block Trans Ams from 1979. But what really set the Turbo Trans Am apart was how it delivered its power. Unlike the brutal, all-or-nothing power delivery of the old 400 V8, the turbocharged 301 built power smoothly and progressively. When the boost kicked in around 2,500 RPM, it pushed you back in your seat with a surge that felt more like a modern turbocharged car than a classic muscle car. Car magazines of the era praised its smooth power delivery and improved handling, with Motor Trend calling it the best handling Trans Am we've ever tested. The car even proved itself on the NASCAR circuit, where it was chosen as the official pace car for the 1981 Daytona 500, the first turbocharged car to ever pace the race. Pontiac only produced around 3,500 Turbo Trans Ams in 1980, with about 1,500 of those getting the full package, including the WS6 handling setup. The price was steep for the time, starting at $7,639, but jumping to nearly $10,000 when fully loaded with options like T-tops, power windows, and the special Recaro seats. These cars could only be ordered in 3 colors: Platinum Silver, Starlight Black, or Ontario White, each with specific turbo graphics and pinstriping. But the Turbo Trans Am's time in the spotlight was short-lived. By 1981, stricter emissions standards forced Pontiac to detune the engine, dropping power to just 200 horsepower. The following year, the 301 Turbo was discontinued entirely, marking the end of Pontiac's turbocharged experiment. Today, finding an original 1980 Turbo Trans Am is incredibly rare. Many were modified over the years, and others simply didn't survive due to the complex turbo system requiring specialized maintenance that many mechanics of the era weren't trained to handle. A well-preserved example can fetch upwards of $50,000 at auction, with some pristine cars going for even more. The 1980 Turbo Trans Am represents the last real attempt by Pontiac to keep the muscle car spirit alive in an era when it seemed all but dead. It showed that with enough engineering creativity, there was still a way to build powerful, exciting cars even in the face of strict regulations. Let me know in the comments if you've ever seen one of these rare turbo birds in person. They're a special piece of American automotive history that deserves to be remembered.